Okay, before we start, I'm going to be the first to admit that I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't belong in this world. I come from a world of marketing, advertising, building tech platforms. And when the organizers called and asked if I'd moderate this panel, my first reaction was of fear. And the reason I'm sharing this is what we want to talk about today, which is how do we invite, how do we take the fear out of marketeers, out of brand builders, out of ad agencies to enter this world and see what the possibilities are. I probably represent that audience, right? So today I'm going to play the role of asking the questions which will make people like me more comfortable. Yesterday, my day was immersive. I was completely alone. I didn't know a soul here. But what I saw and what I learned tells me the huge opportunity that there is in this space to create meaningful experiences for brands, right? Finally, brands sponsor platforms or programs or celebrities who make sense for them. How do you create a win-win for the brand to succeed and meet their objectives of creating awareness, getting people to love them, getting people to love their product, and at the same time making it meaningful for creators, for the geniuses like you all who build those beautiful experiences, right? And that's the gap I think that this panel is going to try and bridge today. We're requesting all of you at any point, if you'll have questions, if you'll have a comment, if you want to add anything to what's being discussed here, please feel free to jump in because the benefit of this discussion is for the audience. It's not for us to talk amongst ourselves. And I'm going to kick it off by asking each one of you to do a quick introduction. And while you do that, could you share one heartwarming example or a successful example of a brand integration, either in the metaverse or in the gaming field? Yeah, whoever wants to start. All right, Jeremy.
Hi, everyone.
Yes.
I'm Jeremy. I'm head of gaming of the Tezos ecosystem. We're a layer 1 blockchain. So we have a lot of experience kind of working with brands. We're partnered with Manchester United, McLaren, and Red Bull, and other brands like Evian, Decathlon, and Decathlon. So I think, yeah, for me, the goal is really bringing brands into the ecosystem. Will unlock more value for players. It will make certain Web3 ecosystems much more sustainable. The metaverse is much more sustainable by selling the advertising and attention of the users, and that generates a lot of value.
Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everyone. My name is Chayya, and I'm the SVP at Reliance Games. Reliance Games has been one of the early players in the gaming industry in India. We've been around for 20 odd years now. And in fact, we are one of the pioneers when it comes to brands getting integrated with gaming, right from the feature phone days. I'm not sure how many of you remember or how many of you use the feature phone, especially the black and white devices which Reliance Infocom had launched. And we managed to build games on that and do successful brand integrations. And one of the recent campaigns we are running on the Android Play Store is with one of the IPs we own, the Little Singham IP, where we have Hershey's getting integrated inside the game where you play as Little Singham and you're collecting Jolly Rancher lollipops. And this is the third year in a row the brand has kind of continued running this campaign with us. And that says for the power of gaming, what Ganga was mentioning, that when you see a kid playing, kid's eyes light up, it's either that he or she is playing a game or he or she has something very dear to him or her in front of them. So I think games can deliver that immersive, engaging experience. We've also been in the AR, VR space a bit, but yeah, gaming is fun because, again, the reach it offers on the mobile phones. And we are here to keep continuing making games, not just for Web 2 and beyond, and Web 3 and the Metaverse also. So thank you.
Hi, very good afternoon to everybody here at IGDC in Hyderabad, and my compliments to IGDC's wonderful, wonderful initiative. My name is Neeraj Roy. I'm the founder of Hungama Digital Media. Our gaming sort of business dates back a little bit to like Niraj talked about, the moment you start talking about, 2G and devices of that nature, as it were. But I think we've been associated with brands in a fairly big way. We've done, give or take, about 3,000 or 4,000 brand campaigns which have been gamified or made into games. I think it's a very logical kind of association. Brands and the entire communication that's built around them is, for their audiences, their consumers, to be in love with them. Gaming itself is a tremendously immersive experience, and hence it's logical, even from a cultural point of view, to sort of associate that. Since the topic here is Metaverse, and Ganga's brief was one example that comes to mind, is not something that we did, but I came across this, which is a Tata brand called Tanishq. They did an exciting engagement in the Metaverse recently, but that was more a virtual sort of tour around their entire stores, and you could use elements to sort of adorn yourself into that jewelry, etc. And I think it would have been a really more memorable, touching experience had they chosen to go ahead and perhaps get a couple married too in the Metaverse. So maybe next year.
Sohn?
Good afternoon. It's my first time in IGDC. It's really nice events, and it's a very good chance to meet everyone in the industry. So thank you for having me for this great events. My name is Sohn. I'm Krafton's India CEO. It's been only 1 year in India, but I met a lot of interesting folks here in India, gaming industry. So one example that I can think out as a success case of brands, big brands engagement in gaming is we had done one IP collaboration with the McLaren on PC. It took quite some time to develop a whole idea and concept, and also the feel of the car skins on the game. So basically, it's a premium car skin item that user can buy within the game. I believe that we gave the feeling of premium and luxuriousness of McLaren car brands within the game, so that the revenue which we could get from the in-game sales was two times or three times of the user the monthly revenue. So which shows users actually want to pay for brands, not in the real car, but in the game. So that is a very great success for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Like Niraj said, we could have gotten someone married on the Metaverse. So that's exactly what I did. So my name is Neeraj. I work for WPP India. Another Neeraj, very big fan of Neeraj Roy. So I lead this community of 100+ champions, and these guys, they breed creativity. They use the power of creativity and new technology to deliver campaigns. And more so in the last 1 year, not even 1 year, I would say about 10 odd months, we've been doing some fascinating work in the virtual world. Right from getting a couple married, which created almost like global headlines for us. And we got Coca-Cola to sponsor it. So what better than Coca-Cola to sponsor the first wedding on the Metaverse? And we got them as a drink sponsor there, and created some unique experiences using that Daljit thematic, which is like sip a Coke and shake a leg with Daljit. So the moment you move into that counter, you will have Daljit singing back at you. But the moment the audience, they move out, there's a Shadi music which keeps playing, right? There was one unique integration which we did in this wedding. Then we went on to create multiple experiences on virtual worlds. For Colgate Palmolive, we hosted Women's Day, and this was for rural India, getting rural ladies from UP Sonbhadra district, right? So that was again a unique piece of campaign which was being delivered. Went on to create multiple campaigns on Decentraland, Kids Award Show for Perfetti. Recent ones are Volvo XC40 launch, which happened on the Metaverse. We did a campaign on Enoland for GSK, which was a classic example of Metaverse for inclusion and diversity, I would say. So tons of work in that space. If I were to come back on gaming and give you an example there, my most favorite from WPP's cases globally is Wendy's. If you guys followed it, Wendy's as a character moved into all possible gaming worlds and challenged avid gamers like us and beat us at it, right? So that was so amazing. She moved into Minecraft, Roblox, and all those platforms. That was my favorite globally. And India, my most favorite one is the one which we did on WCC, where we created this unique campaign for Boost. कि क्रिकेट लड़के या लड़कियों का गेम नहीं होता, स्टेमिना का गेम होता है. So when people log in, they've been assigned a default team as Indian women cricket team, and they play against other countries' men's, and they beat it at them, and then the messaging comes over, right? So that's my favorite from India, and I look forward to creating many more.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing all these examples. My takeaway, and considering I'm still 1 foot in the old world and trying to enter this new world, is the rules aren't different, right? It's about creating experiences for the right audiences, reaching the right people at the right time. Content is king. If you don't have meaningful content, why will people engage? And purpose. Purpose is the most fashionable word in the brand building world today. And with what you're talking about, that's already there. It's great to have this particular group here, and I'll tell you why I thought it was so meaningful for the 5 of you all to be here and talk about this topic. The entire ecosystem is represented here. We have experts who know how the developer world works, how to design games, what to do to integrate brands. You represent a corporate, and you're also working with gamers to build a platform and bring them together. With Hungama, you've been there from day one, and you've got a sense of how to make it work as a business. Sohn, you probably wear the financial wizard's hat and say, how can I look at everything and make sure it's meaningful and it's not just fun and play. It is fun and play, but it has to make business sense at the end of the day. And as an agency partner, you probably bridge the two worlds by making meaningful connections. So what we're asking all of you is, if you have questions that you want to ask, please feel free. I don't think you'll find a group like this together again that can add value to each other's opinions as well. Anyone has a question?
Or else we'll ask you questions.
Okay, so Neeraj Roy, I have a question for you, right? We see experiments. We see some of the big brands having taken the plunge. But I don't think, if you think of the maturity curve, the big maturity has as yet jumped on. What will it take, one, on the brand and advertiser side, for us to meet that critical mass? And two, for the audience here, for the geniuses who are actually creating these brands, what do they need to keep in mind to make it easy? Because I feel in the long run, money won't come just from investors. Investors put in money because they want to make more money, and that more money will come from businesses, right? How do we join those dots?
Sure. So, Ganga, let me respond to this, keeping the audience in mind, really, and really this is always all for you all, as it were, in terms of what we are. So let's break this up into two parts. Let's just very quickly look at what is the gaming market, and then we'll talk gaming and metaverse. We look at it at 4 levels. So you've got at the bottom of the pyramid casual mobile gaming. You've got on top of that elements of game of skill and chance and real money gaming. Then you've got the entire gaming, which is all about gaming, which is linked to sort of fantasy sport, and top of the pyramid will be esports, as it were. The good news is that for the last 2 decades, at least Ninad and I have been championing this cause, but we can safely say that gaming has arrived, and India is now, well on its way to deliver a certain percentage in the broader gaming ecosystem. It's certainly doing it as community. It will hopefully start doing it in value and economic value as well. Coming to brands, therefore for brands, they look for, you must have a large enough audience which will engage. And the core metric that brands look for is time spent, time engaged, etc. In gaming worlds, and more so at the cusp of where we are right now, you can get a lot more immersive. It can lead to transaction. It can lead to co-option. It can lead to, actually mini communities of whatever they are putting out there. So if I am a lifestyle brand and I want an association in the virtual world to be centered around those attributes, I have an ability to build it out. When it comes to the metaverse, it's important that the audience also realize that the metaverse is today where, let's say, the internet was in the late 90s, right? So if somebody were to say to you 15 years back that at the touch of a button, you will get, a car that'll come and pick you up or whatever, and that's Ola, Uber or whatever, or 10 years back that anywhere in the world in 30 minutes you'll get food delivered, you wouldn't necessarily buy into that. Those applications are yet to be written. But brands also love innovation. That is the reason why co-option with the metaverse is an early phase for them to do. And I have, to me, I look at it as three ways. It's like you experiment, you evolve, and then you embrace. All of what Neeraj spoke about is the experimentation phase. Experimentation is not expensive. Brands can learn. There's huge other equity that comes your way in trying to do this. So that's, just to sort of lay it out in terms of broad numbers, etc.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Connected to that, I have a question which I think Neeraj, Sohn, and Niraj will have a perspective on, which is we are now in the digital world. There's no going back from here, right? But I'm realizing more and more that there's an old digital or a traditional digital, and there is the new digital. The traditional digital is beset with problems. For example, there's an over-reliance on vanity metrics. What does clicks mean? What does reach mean? What is it translating into, right? It's no longer a good to have. Every dollar spent needs to tell you what returns it's getting you. So what are the advantages of the new digital world? In the old digital world, I know we are struggling with disappearance of third-party cookies. You're struggling with identity. You're struggling with not knowing who you're talking to. Retargeting is bullshit, right? So what are the advantages here? It may not already exist today because I know the world is still nascent, but how can we get beyond vanity metrics to truly make business sense for a brand to invest in this space?
You want to go first? I mean, there's this very interesting joke which me and Niraj had in the speakers lounge. There's this very big myth which surrounds Metaverse. Initially, for 3 months when the Meta name change happened, most of them thought that Meta is a property of Metaverse. Like in 90s where people thought that Yahoo is owned by Shami Kapoor. Right? So that is what it is.
But that's also Mark Zuckerberg's insidious brilliance, right, to have done something like that.
Yeah, and that is the power of establishing a brand, right? I mean, the Yahoo word is synonymous with the late Shami Kapoor. And the possibly people kind of coming forward will think that, yes, Meta is owning Metaverse. If you say it long enough and loud enough, maybe people start believing you. So to answer, Ganga, your question on what is the difference, and like you said, the earlier digital, the old digital was all about vanity. I think we're now moving into an experiential environment, right? It's no longer about just watching a YouTube video or watching a YouTube clip or just going through a website or interacting with a brand on the social media. The metaverse will make you an immersive part of the experience, where your digital avatar will be able to interact with the environment, with the brand, with the surroundings. And that communication needs to be a positive one for the user to have a top-of-mind recall as, yes, this is a brand which emotionally connected with me, even though it was in a virtual environment. When I was growing up, there used to be a paint brand called Jensen and Nicholson. And they had a TV ad which had a tagline saying, whenever you think of color, think of us. And likewise, if today you go say, you don't go for the photocopy, you go for the Xerox. And I think that experience needs to translate into the metaverse where people are interacting. Like Neeraj had mentioned some examples of Wendy's or even fashion brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton are creating their virtual worlds in different metaverse environments. Fortnite is hosting concerts, or their fashion labels are coming onto Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, not because it's a cool thing to do, but because the customer, the end user is there and is already experiencing, interacting in the virtual world. So go where your customer is, and that's what needs to also be thought in mind, the communication and all of that. So I think the experience part needs to be delivered seamlessly.
Yeah, just to add to what Niraj just mentioned, there's a very interesting piece which we look at when we are looking at creating an experience on a particular gaming environment. And brands would always look at scale, because if you were to hire a developer and create an experience on top of a particular game and get that brand thematic onto it, you'll have to invest significant money to do that. Right? So when you do that, brand will always look back and calculate cost per contact. If you spent X dollars on building the solution, and if you reach out to say minuscule number of audiences, your cost per contact goes up. So the gaming solutions or gaming worlds where the scale is highest, those are the worlds where more and more experimentation would happen, right? That's one clear area which brands would look at. Like imagine WCC, we did that, and if the number of active users on that game were in thousands, we wouldn't have spent so much money delivering it. So the reason we chose the game was not because we had a thematic which was going in line with cricket, but we also chose the game because of the scale it delivered. And you as developers, you got to not just think technology first, but also creativity and brands problem statements. Like as custodian of 500 top brands in India, we wake up to our inbox buzzing with a lot of problem statements, right? And there's where we need to partner with developers like you who would come along and share solves for it, and not just a gimmick. Like it needs to be like a very rock solid experience out there. And that's what brands and agencies are looking at.
Sohn has an experience there.
Yeah, I have kind of comments or sort of open questions to all of us. So yeah, even to audience, yeah. So because we are very used to paid marketing, like digital marketing, because it's very easy to track the performance. It's easy to sort of make a decision whether you spend enough money or too much money based on certain metrics like CAC or like number of downloads or whatever. But the thing is, I think most of us might have felt already like if you spend certain amount of money on paid marketing, you will lose organic growth immediately. It's a kind of trick that you come across when you are so addicted to paid marketing. But I think like brand marketing in gaming or metaverse, I think it can provide very engaging and positive experience, user experience, so that it's not very easy to track in numbers, but potentially it can give very prolonged positive effectiveness over the very long time. So I think we will need more trial and test, but I think overall in the long term, this will give us very good marketing platform for big brands in the long term.
I've just another little anecdote taking on from what Sohn was saying. So, in terms of engagement, because we are spending so much time on screens, and there's a term in marketing parlance, not recent, for the last several years now, where we no longer refer to certain demographics or segments as teenagers or whatever. We're all becoming screenagers because there are multiple screens, and at all points in time, you're consuming that. The next thing that's happening is that certainly with the evolution of 5G, you will find 4 or 5 formats or categories of content kind of coming together: audio, video, gaming, live, extended reality, and that world kind of coming alive in this. So I think, Niraj mentioned about avatars, and this is just to tickle the curiosity of you all in the audience. So mark this day, 4th of November, 22, and let's take a bet, say 4th of November, 27. We are 6 of us here right now physically. I visualize a scenario that 6 of us here and 100 plus of you in the audience will have thousands of avatars that will be residing and having persistent experiences in the virtual world 5 years from now. Because if Web3 evolution is to happen, then the power of that data and insight is going to be with you and not with the specific platform. Which means that that avatar is going to learn your mannerisms. Which means that the interactions that you have, your social interactions, your professional interactions, your interactions with family, your kids, it's kind of getting attuned. And let's say you wanted to have an interaction with this really irritating cousin of yours and you don't have the time to do it. You will say, okay, go ahead and do it with my avatar. Maybe it'll take 80% of the decision and you'll go back end of the day and kind of. But that's the world. And you know where that world is going to be created from? The world of gaming. So that's just, something to sort of.
Absolutely. And with everything that we've spoken, and with the one person who's been completely quiet, he is the one who represents the person who creates that magic, right? You're sitting behind the screen and you're imagining all of this and you're saying, how do I build this? So please tell us, what will it take for brands to engage in a way that's non-intrusive, that helps them create immersive experiences, but still doesn't, disturb what users have come there for. So what's your thinking? What is it that you're taking into this world?
Got it. So I think the big thing around the new way of advertising and new way of marketing versus the old will tell you a story, right? This is Rolex, this is why you should buy Rolex. The new way is engaging the audience, engaging your players. So an example I would use would be how Gap minted their NFTs on Tezos. They got the community and creators to actually have a design competition to see how should these NFTs look like. Once they decided on a winner through a vote, that became the official design of the NFT, and every time that gets sold, royalty goes towards the creator. So now the community is invested in the Gap brand. They become more invested not just by knowing about it, by being an active participant in designing it. And I think that creates a tremendous amount of value for the community. Once you actively contribute to something, you feel part of it, and that becomes part of your life. So yeah, to me, I think that is probably the most exciting use case I've seen to date.
So used to the Teams call, my hand was going up like this.
Okay, you may speak.
You guys hear me? Okay. So like what Neeraj mentioned, that this is going to happen 5 years from now, right? Everyone's going to create their avatars. Now, I already created my MetaHuman using Unreal with a 3-month training, not just because Epic Games is our global partners, but it's so easy to create MetaHumans out there. With a simple 3 months training, I was able to create my MetaHuman, not to perfection, but it took me 1 week to create. And I ran a keynote at Exchange for Media's Martech conference a couple of weeks back. Back then in August, I created the similar stuff in Unreal 4.26, where I got my top clients, Mondelez, GSK, Perfetti, Viativ, and Volvo. All the CXO clients and their avatars were being created, and we were running a live panel inside the metaverse, if you guys followed that. So it's closer to us. It's already happening. No, and platforms like Unreal.
And just on that, to make this, and this is what the way you guys should also sort of butt in, as it were. But just to add to Neeraj's thing, so my kind of sort of little bit of a eureka moment in the metaverse was we as a company are looking at, we're making our own, and across gaming and fashion, lifestyle, art, etc. So we examined about 16, 17 platforms from the majors like Decentraland, etc. to one of the most interesting examples was we have 5 of us who are doing a 60-minute conference. The entire, the CEO of this platform, the entire 60-minute session was actually done by his avatar. Wow. So I'm asking him, okay, I want to create experiences. I want to do, like if I'm doing a music concert, what kind of simulation can you create for me? So he says, yeah, okay, I'll have to show you that, but that's a little distance. I said, okay. So I'm seeing the screen, and the avatar knight turns away from me, starts walking, gets into a car. First clicks a button. So the button opens a little garage door, and out comes a Ferrari, because, this is Web3 and whatever. So everything has got to be Ferraris and whatever. Gets into the Ferrari, then drives for about 8 or 9 seconds. And I'm kind of seeing that, then comes out, says, now come follow me, takes me through, and that's the experience. And I thought that was pretty cool, So, sorry to butt in, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's closer to us. It's definitely close. And where the platforms are getting upgraded, look at August and the output which I created in 2 months, right? I mean, you fall in love with the platform. Like, you guys are coders. I'm not even a coder, but I'm trying to learn a lot of new platforms. With 3 months of training, if I can create this, imagine what you can do for brands.
Okay, so now, go.
Sorry. So to add what Neeraj said, right? I mean, he raised his hand because he's so used to MS Teams calls. So Microsoft and Meta are already working together to create an immersive metaverse for collaboration and communication. So it is happening, right? In the next few months, you will see virtual avatars of each of us, possibly doing team calls with each other. And like Neeraj said, the example of the CEO going, we would be able to walk through a presentation in the whole metaverse space, not the B2C side, but even on the day-to-day collaboration, work, design, all those aspects. And yeah, Niraj, we feel for you, man. Nobody's perfect. Not everybody's a coder.
It's been 1 year. I don't do any 2D calls on Teams or Gmeet or Zoom. All my calls are 3D calls, where I appear in 3D. It's not, nothing fancy,
Do you
but
change
I use...
anything about yourself, or are you
Yeah,
happy
I
with
use
the way
bunch
you
of
look?
softwares. I use Kinect to give that 3D relay back onto audiences, right? So, and I tell them I'm in the metaverse, right? Live calls with the client. So it is closer to us.
Okay, so
And we
now
have to drive it as leaders.
I'm a brand, right? And all of this sounds really fantastic. But you know what? I need it quick, I need it cheap, and I need it yesterday. How do we do that? And in the tech world that I come from, increasingly we're moving
Mark
away
Zuckerberg
from
also wants it exactly the same way. Unfortunately, with 820 billion down, in the last 12 months, yeah.
Wait,
That's a
I'm
big
going
call.
somewhere with this. So basically, we're moving away from a services model, which is we don't want to throw people at menial tasks, right? There should be ways of addressing that, while the human brain should be engaged in creating and doing interesting things. Sean, you spoke about something really interesting at lunch. Would love for you to talk about that. And of course, Ninad, sorry, I know you wanted to say something too.
It's really echoing, huh, now? I don't know for them, for us.
Yeah, I think there it's okay.
No, but that's me here right now. I'm in a physical space.
It's a
two of
little
you.
echoing, actually.
It is.
But anyway, yeah, so I want to share a little bit of like Krafton's sort of forward-looking sort of research and developments in creating a metaverse tool for creators. I think that, I mean, the analogy that I can make is like there was a like creator called Doti in Korea who used to make contents, story-based contents on Minecraft. Minecraft is a very good tool to make some story within a virtual world. It's a great tool. And he actually started a company. Now he has 300-400 creators in his company. And they are planning go IPO in a couple of years. So that shows the power of story in metaverse or virtual worlds, we can say that. So we, Krafton, as a company, we believe in that if we sort of commoditize or standardize the tool for creators to create their own metaverse, I think it can be an opportunity for creators to make their own metaverse that can actually work with like big brands, or they can also use it as a like very similar to Roblox. They can actually make the game or make the worlds within using that creator platform, creator tools to service a new game. So that's what we are actually trying to do. It's still under development, but we expect it can be launched in a year or 12 months or 16 months.
The SaaS model of the metaverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Ninad.
No, I was just reacting to the point which you made that you need it as an advertiser, as a marketeer. You need it quick, you need it good quality, and you need it cheap. You just touched upon a raw nerve for every developer out there, and including me, where you can only have two of those three.
I agree. That's what I tell
Right?
my clients.
And so back in 2016 when Pokemon Go just launched, right?
Yeah.
I would get calls from agencies saying, we want a game like Pokemon Go. We have a brand launch coming up in 2 weeks. And I'm like, not happening. That guy spent 20 years building that logic and that
Did
engine.
I call you by any chance?
Not yet. But please expect the same answer when you call me, saying, please pick 2 out of 3. Yeah. So it is about, if you want to create a good premium experience, be it a game, be it a metaverse experience, it has to be given enough time, enough thought. We get briefed saying, we want to do something in the metaverse. Like there's a very popular bank, and Ganga said, do not take their names, I will not take their name here. I got a call a few months back saying, we want to create our virtual branch in Decentraland. I said, fair enough, we can build it. I mean, technologically not a problem. I said, what is your purpose? He said, no, we want our customers to interact with us in the virtual world in Decentraland. And I said, how many customers of yours are in Decentraland? And they had no clue about it. They just wanted to do it because it's cool to have a virtual presence in the metaverse. And recently there was some number, I think Neeraj mentioned that I think
$8,000.
8,000, Decentraland has only 8,000 daily active users. And then the brand, on a good day. And if we had gone ahead, built it, it had bombed miserably, the brand would have said, oh, metaverse is just a faff. It will not work. But you don't see that it didn't serve the purpose. What you mentioned, the purpose needs to be served, be it a game or a metaverse. So, and so you just touched the raw nerve and the angst just poured out.
I feel you.
That brings us to the same point which I mentioned earlier. If you were to take a call on a gaming world, it'll be Roblox versus a Decentraland, right?
Yeah.
And I think the key that's kind of tying everything together between Roblox and what Krafton is building is really leveraging the creativity of your users, right? So Roblox is games created by players for players, and similarly what Krafton is working on as well. So in the same way, when you get your fans and the people engaged with your brand to actually create content around it, whether it's TikToks, whether it's Instagram posts, or even experiences in these sort of virtual worlds, then they themselves become much more engaged, the creators, and then there's more content that can attract even more people into your brand ecosystem. So I think that is like maybe the secret sauce.
Yeah. Okay, one question on behalf of people who want to spend money on this world but don't yet know how to. What are the kind of skill sets that you recommend agencies, brand marketers sort of invest in and develop so that they're able to be meaningful partners and tap into this world of creators?
Should I go first? I mean, I exactly do that. I exactly do that. So I started my intro with this a practice or a council or a community we are trying to build within our organization. We call it Creative Technology Council, wherein we groom our creative people to become creative technologists eventually. It's not going to be that easy. But the intent is to use the power of creativity and technology to build fancy solutions. One of our most powerful campaign which made India proud was the Shah Rukh Khan ad, which you saw that, not just a Cadbury ad, right? That was, the campaign thematic was so powerful, but the synthetic AI came into picture where we gave the power to a remotest of retailers in India. Someone sitting in Bihar can create his own Shah Rukh Khan ad and boost about it. They'll look at Shah Rukh Khan promoting my small store, right? That's the power which that campaign gave. So this particular council is being groomed to do that, right? They are being trained on various subjects of emerging technologies. And Web3 is obviously the center of it. For the last 8 months, we've been just focusing on that, on all aspects of Web3, right? Metaverse seems to encapsulate everything, whether it's AR, VR, virtual worlds, NFTs, blockchain, and beyond. It's a large subject. And the skill set has to be across so that you can hold a conversation in front of the client, also understand the language of the intelligent people sitting out here, the dev community. Most of the times when they come and reach us and they are speaking to a media planner, it's just going unheard. You know, so it needs upskilling at our end as well, which is what we are working towards, so that we can create meaningful campaigns out there. Now look at one of our most promising campaign on NFT, and I keep saying that the novelty value of NFT has faded, which means the true value is to be realized now. Look at our campaign on James NFT, James Junior NFT, if you guys followed it. Like our kids, they keep scribbling a lot of stuff on a piece of a paper. Parents can click a picture, put it up on gems.com. That creates a piece of art. And the money realized from that goes for underprivileged students' education. That's a fabulous campaign, right? So those are the kind of campaign which the teams are now working on.
Making the world a better place.
Absolutely. Metaverse for Good framework. I think it's a beginning of an era. And as leaders, we need to work towards Metaverse for Good framework.
Absolutely.
No, so just a quick one. I think, to simplify this, there's something about storytelling, and then there are technologies and platforms, right? So the art of storytelling, that component, the brand knows, the custodian of the brand, the agency, etc. knows. I think we shouldn't feel intimidated by evolution of technology. Basically have a certain kind of curiosity in terms of that, what could this do? For example, I mean, there are now this whole space of AR, VR, MR, or extended reality, I think is tremendously promising. And it's not necessarily determined by the hardware, because I think the evolution is going to be driven by augmented reality first. And that space is already, there's a lot that's happening in that area. I think I would basically say that curiosity is essential in today's time. To a marketeer, to any custodian, because your consumers are going across platforms and screens, and they're familiar. You just need to draw the thread of how they connect with, whether it's your automobile brand, your insurance brand, your device brand, or whatever, to build it out. And ultimately, it's stories that you are echoing back.
At the heart of it, absolutely. Jeremy, do you have a point of view on that from a creator perspective? What would your advice be to people like me?
So yeah, I think brands need to really understand like what the players and what the users of these metaverses and these games want. So for example, in again the Krafton example, bringing McLaren into a game, like gamers love racing, they love fast cars, beautiful cars. So McLaren is basically a beautiful a brand to bring into a game. So yeah, I think it's really around understanding the consumer and then bringing kind of what an agency and marketing knows about those consumers to games and saying, look, this is how I can make the game better by having a brand inside, so the players feel happy, they have a good more incentive to spend money, and they can use that ideally brand across different experiences if it's a true metaverse on the blockchain, right? So I think kind of combining all these factors together, you have a marketing agency that understands what users want and then can bring that to in collaboration with a studio like ours to fruition.
So have clarity of thinking, believe in the power of what you're deploying, find a relevant connection with your brand, and don't make unreasonable asks.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we have a few minutes left, opening up for questions. Lovely. Someone going to get a mic?
Hello. Yeah. Hi, my name is Manva. The question is for everybody. You all spoke about creating avatars and having a second person for yourself. Are we creating a very unreal world in the future, wherein there'll be multiple avatars of the same person? So, are we getting even more unreal than what we are today by getting into metaverse? Is it going to have a negative impact, or we only see the pros of the new world that we are getting into?
A positive story to it. Let me just give you a positive use case which I'm working towards. Now, imagine a physically challenged person. If he were to go and dance to the tune of Lady Gaga in her concert, you can do that on the metaverse. Look at the power of the platform, right? You can create your avatars. You don't need passports, no visas. You can walk into a concert of any top celebrity, not just a concert, it can be any other use case. So that's how powerful this space can be. And it's a paradise for creative folks. Now, when you talk about everything comes with its own share of nuances. And that's why I spoke about Metaverse for Good framework. Like it's a beginning of an era and we need to all work towards it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically very similar to what just Niraj mentioned. We have seen, I mean, it's not very new. I mean, we have seen many gamers online from different geographies, from different demographics. They play together. And even some of them actually make a living by streaming their contents, playing games online. Some of them are like underprivileged in terms of economy, and or there are someone who is handicapped. So we have seen this sort of trends over the last 5-10 years since like broadband penetration and 4G and things like that. So I think more to come. I mean, if there is a better tool for different people to use to find the meaning in their life or to find a better chance of job, I mean, this will very powerful. Yeah, this will be very sort of. I mean, it's already there, but there will be more to come, I believe.
I learned sorry.
Just a quick one on that. See, you must understand with technology comes disruption. With disruption, there is always good and evil. If somebody were to say 50 years back that let's not do software because there'll be piracy, there will be cybercrime, I don't think the world and humanity would have evolved to this level. So let's assume that will be an aspect. Let's assume with every decade, regulators, everybody are also learning. And if nothing works, let's also assume, and I say this in lighter vein, that perhaps 5 years out, there will be another version of Elon Musk who will come and fix what he's doing to fix trolls and whatever as it were. So maybe if you get a darker side of the metaverse, there'll be another version of him who will come and fix it.
I learned something yesterday. I don't know how eloquent it will sound, but I'm going to try. Why should we assume that we need to be multiple avatars in every metaverse or multiverse or whatever we call it, right? What about interoperability? Why can't I be the same person no matter which universe I inhabit? The second concept which I'm trying to connect to this is that of identity. Today, we feel our identity is in the hands of businesses and marketeers who have no business holding our data. In this new world, maybe because of blockchain, we will retain a lot of that control. And maybe it'll be a saner world than what we are seeing today. So that's another positive side to it as well.
Hi, I'm here. So we're talking about that within next 4-5 years, we will see a different level of revolution in metaverse. One of the major immersive experience how we get in metaverse is via VR headsets, sort of devices, right? Currently, I'm talking more from India perspective. Reach or penetration of such headsets is not even 0.5%, right? So I think internet changed certain things in gaming and social industry, right? When Geo came, that revolution happened. Are we supposed to expect something similar in next 4-5 years in metaverse? And will this VR headsets will play certain roles in that? That's question one. Sorry, it's a long question. The second part is, I think roughly 400 million folks in India are Gen Z, and which is already engaging on metaverse via Roblox or Fortnite or somewhere. But when brand wants to take benefits of metaverse, right, there is a larger audience, which is what you can say, millennials or Gen X, right? That's, I think, roughly 60% of population. Uh, how that will pay, how brands will be able to penetrate that section? So these are the two questions which I'd like to ask. Anyone can answer that. Yeah.
So to answer the first question, right, I mean, what's the roadmap or what's the, where are we in terms of adoption for metaverse? I think Neeraj mentioned it on, if you look at the early days of the internet, right? I mean, we, at least when the internet came into India into mid-90s, I used to use a 9.6 kbps modem and then upgraded to a 14.4, and the state of the art was 56 kbps back then, which today we are at 4G and 5G coming in. It's taken us from 95 to 2022, almost 30 years to reach where we are today. But if you look at the smartphone evolution, from a feature phone in the late 90s, early 2000s to a state-of-the-art iPhone 14 Pro, it's taken us much less than that, from 2008 till 22, like 14 years. So we are seeing the time gap shortening. So to be able to do a mass adoption of metaverse through something like a VR headset, and it is not just the one primary channel to access the metaverse, but let's take that as an example. I don't think it's going to take us that long. I think a 5 to 10 year roadmap is what we see for the whole metaverse effect to take off from a mass market perspective.
Cool. Yeah, our time's up. Organizers, I don't know if we have one more minute to add one more answer or take one more question.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just had one question. So basically, I just wanted to ask, what do you guys feel is the scope of basically owning real estate in the metaverse? Because, for example, Nike has a store in, I think, Roblox, which has a lot of users. So what do you think a brand has the scope to own some real estate in the metaverse?
Does it make sense to invest?
So, see, when you say own space, the connotation is that will the value over time sort of grow, etc. Now, that definition, by its very nature, comes from something being finite. The reason your property prices go up, you know, in whichever city, etc., that you're living is that. So, as long as there is a structure to creating something finite, there is a window. So what we saw with the Decentraland, Sandbox, etc., in the early days, without that entire part, you had a massive surge. But technically, it's limitless, right? You can keep creating. Everyone can create whatever. So until and unless that element is done. So I think the use case that just because I set up land is not economically viable enough for the value to grow. But that does not mean a brand cannot embrace a new, more immersive, more interactive, and more visual technology to display, to engage, to transact with their customers here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we should let the next, that red board's shining out at me, but thank you so much everyone for listening and more questions on ground for whoever didn't get to. But thank you and good luck to all of you.